celebrating 41 seasons on the air. Farm Week is a production of Mississippi State University Extension.
Today on Farm Week, the Farm Bill fails in a partisan vote held hostage to an immigration debate. Now what? 10 women get up close and personal with cows in a cattle handling workshop. On this Memorial Day weekend, a look back at how American patriots here at home grew victory gardens during World War II. And a crop grown for thousands of years overseas has Midwest farmers on a path to prosperity. Farm Week starts right now. Hello everyone, I'm Mike Russell. Thanks for joining us today on Farm Week. Leighton Spann is on assignment. You've likely heard by now the first vote on the 2018 Farm Bill, a no-go, stalled by concerns over immigration and welfare. What happens next is anyone's guess. One thing's for sure, everyone has opinions and they are not afraid to share them.
As I find myself saying far too often these days, a bad process produces bad policy. And this Farm Bill is a bad policy, plain and simple.
A hallmark of the Republicans' bill is about putting people back to work as part of SNAP, or the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, at a time of historically low unemployment.
We're talking about a bill that's going to take a major step forward in lifting folks out of poverty, a major step forward in putting people back to work, a major step forward in making sure that folks who receive federal benefits are those who need federal benefits.
Democrats say the bill doesn't go far enough to help struggling producers from pasture to plate.
This harm bill is another step in the wrong direction for rural America, at a time when farmers are already feeling the pain of President Trump's impulsive trade war and Secretary Pruitt's attack on ethanol.
That's why I'm proud that the new Farm Bill addresses many of the challenges farmers face every day, including streamlining and reducing burdensome federal pesticide regulations, creating a program to address our nation's feral hog problem, and strengthening the existing crop insurance program.
The former chair of the Agriculture Committee knows the road to signed legislation is far from easy.
No farm bill is ever simple. They're all hard. Circumstances change from cycle to cycle, crop to crop, but it's always hard to do a farm bill. So why are we here? Why do we keep going through this process? Because ultimately we need to pass a comprehensive piece of legislation that will make sure we have the ability to raise the food and fiber that our neighbors need.
We've had 3 years of hard work on this, 114 hearings. We're ready to move this bill forward. I recommend that my folks vote against the last-minute, last-ditch effort to look like they're legislating, because they ignored the legislative process for over a month, including in committee. And let's move this forward. Vote no on this amendment and yes on this, and I yield back.
All House Democrats voted against the $867 billion bill Friday morning and were joined by 30 conservative Republicans in the Freedom Caucus on their issue of failing to get concessions on immigration.
On this vote, the yeas are 198, the nays are 213. The bill does not pass.
The Farm Bill is massive, as you just heard, $867 billion, the vast majority of it devoted to welfare spending. That's where some of the friction is. The next vote is scheduled for the end of June. With Memorial Day coming up, many will pay tribute to those who paid the ultimate price in service of their country. But during World War II, while many of them were fighting the enemy overseas, civilians here were waging a homegrown battle of a different type called the Victory Garden. Victory gardens, also known as war gardens, were full of fruits and vegetables planted in backyards, on farms, and in public parks in the U.S. during World War II.
The idea of the Victory Garden was a way to be patriotic, and and you were feeding yourself and not taking resources away from our soldiers that needed those resources to beat the Nazis.
The system reduced pressure on the public food supply, making more of everything available for GIs fighting abroad. It wasn't practical in those days to ship food that far.
They couldn't have done it because all that technology was going to the war effort. So all that food production had to be localized.
These gardens and the films made to inspire their cultivation were also considered morale boosters, a way for Americans to feel empowered during the war effort. The gardens became part of daily life on the home front.
This vital flow of food for freedom dare not, must not be stopped. In spite of sunken ships and trains that must carry steel, oil, coal, and lumber, instead of food, in spite of every obstacle, we must feed our fighting men, our allies, and ourselves if we are to win the war and right the peace.
The campaign was hugely successful. Those who didn't know how to grow food were taught by each other and the government. Community groups helped support the effort.
There were approximately 20 million victory gardens across the United States. They produced approximately 19 million tons of food. That meant each farm was producing almost 2,000 pounds of food.
There are many, many ways we who have stayed home can fight this war. But of them all, none is more appealing than this. And year in, year out, if need be, with our own hands, we can grow the gardens of victory.
Those victory gardens were popular in the 40s, but Gary says they made a comeback of sorts during the Great Recession of 2008. He says he got a lot of calls from people back then asking for help in growing gardens for the first time. So what's a woman to do if she wants to learn the day-to-day basics of a livestock operation, but has no one willing to teach her? A recent Extension-sponsored training for women only provided a unique learning experience. Leighton Spann reports from Verona.
Injecting a cow can be intimidating.
Ooh, I don't like doing that.
Working with syringes, needles, and animal medication was part of this women's workshop at the Lee County Agri Center.
I have never given a cow a shot, and we did practice with that today and learn about the catch pen, and we're going to learn how to bag a trailer. My kids are always teasing me, and I don't know how.
The two-day event at the Extension Center in Verona and the adjoining Agri Center was completely hands-on from start to finish for 10 women producers.
It's not just us telling them about it or maybe showing them and they go apply it at home. They get to get comfortable with it here before they go home and do it. So they're working on live animals.
The first day of the training focused on handling, moving, and working cattle on a farm. Day 2 was devoted to the operation of trucks, tractors, and other equipment, including a hay baler. The women also learned how to build and repair a fence. From Verona, Mississippi, I'm Leighton Spann reporting.
Have you ever tried putting all your eggs, flowers, all in one basket? It's a little easier than you think, and there are some great choices available. Once again, here is Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman with some eye-catching examples in a hanging basket heaven.
I've always loved hanging baskets because they're a fantastic way to enjoy the summer landscape at a different level. Eye level. What a great choice for a porch or patio. Today I'm at Buds and Blooms in container basket heaven. Can you believe all the color combinations? I like this bold yet elegant basket. Super Cal Blushing Pink has stunning shell pink flowers and yellow throats. Cabaret Light Pink Calibrachoa has a well-branched, mounded, and trailing habit, making it perfect for a hanging basket. And Breathless Euphorbia is an elegant plant that prolifically produces the light and airy white flowers. This basket packs a lot of color with small flowers. Lucky Sunrise Rose Lantana features showy clusters of pink flowers with yellow centers. The trailing flower-covered branches of Cerdiva Light Blue Scaevola is perfect in this basket. And Mercadonia Little Sunshine, covered in tiny yellow flowers, is right at home in this basket. This basket features a somewhat familiar flower. Last month in a Southern Gardening segment, headliner Night Sky Petunia was featured. Headliner Pink Sky, its sister petunia, has really distinctive flowers that are primarily pinkish rose with eye-catching sparkles of creamy white. And the tricolor flowers of Can Bumblebee Pink Calibrachoa are spectacular. No matter the size of your landscape, colorful hanging baskets are the perfect way to enjoy the summer season. I'm horticulturist Gary Bachman, and I'll see you next time on Southern Gardening.
Gary says that if you want an eye-opening experience at eye level, pick up a beautiful hanging basket at your local garden center. Well, producers trying to wrap up their planting activities are contending with some eye-opening diesel prices as they refuel their tractors. That's one story in the markets this week. Here are some others we're following. Progress is made as trade talks with China continue. Updated export numbers contain a surprise for cotton, and catfish prices dropped to $1 a pound at the pond bank. Those tariffs that the U.S. threatened to place on Chinese goods continue to be on hold as trade talks take an optimistic turn. Politico reports that U.S. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross will be traveling to Beijing soon to negotiate long-term sales contracts covering both U.S. agricultural and energy products. Administration sources claim Chinese imports of U.S. ag products could increase 35% or more if negotiations continue to progress. Higher fuel costs are coming at the wrong time for farmers. AgFacts.com reports the U.S. average price for diesel is now over 60 cents per gallon higher than a year ago. That is a significant increase in an important input that farmers use many gallons of during planting season. Meanwhile, Mississippi cotton planting is described as running a little ahead of the 5-year average at this point in the season. However, Extension's Brian Williams tells Leighton Spann the bigger story for cotton right now has to do with foreign sales.
The recent supply-demand report for cotton contains some surprises, and it seems like the biggest one was an increase in U.S. exports.
Yeah, when we look at the old crop numbers for cotton, U.S. exports were increased by about 500,000 bales, which a lot of people weren't expecting, although it's not too big of a surprise because looking at kind of the grand scheme of things, the export numbers that we were seeing already coming in the reports were actually ahead of what the pace was from the old WASDE numbers. So it's not too surprising that they adjusted that back up just to meet some of the expectations from what we're already coming on to for current pace.
Well, it sounds like global demand is still strong. Plus, we have this drought situation out in West Texas, Oklahoma. Is that going to lead to significant impact on prices?
There's a lot of potential there, and kind of looking at the way the markets are moving, there was kind of this, for December futures, there was kind of this psychological barrier for a while at that 80-cent mark. And we have actually at some point jumped above that 80 cents. And I think a lot of it has to do with, the demand on the global situation, but also there's a severe drought in Texas and Oklahoma. And with Texas being one of the largest producers of cotton in the country, as they go, so do the markets.
With the situation that's going on, are we on track maybe to exceed the cotton acres, the planted acres that were outlined in that planting intentions report a few months ago?
It's hard to tell for sure, but I see some potential signs for that actually happening. Number one, with December futures being so high, there's a lot of incentive for producers to try to find ways to get additional cotton in the ground. And I really think that if there's anybody out there that had trouble getting the corn in the ground as early as what they would like to, cotton kind of with these markets makes a natural fallback for them.
And final question, how is planting progress looking for cotton across the belt?
Well, looking at the numbers right now, progress is actually going fairly well. Nationally, we're a little bit ahead of where we should be, and then state-wise as well, we're slightly ahead of where kind of the 5-year average is.
A break for the trivia quiz. Today's question ties in perfectly with the holiday weekend and the livestock industry. How many Americans grill beef or pork or another meat on Memorial Day, which is Monday? Is the answer 23%, B, 34%, C, 45%, or D, 60%? We'll have the answer for you in just a minute. We're going to take a short break, so don't go away. Coming up on our Farm Week feature, it is a crop that's been popular for thousands of years. Many believe ginseng provides wide-ranging physical benefits. Wisconsin farmers are growing this fleshy root. 5 of them produce 75% of the crop, most of it shipped to China. Some of their customers are politicians and business people who swear by ginseng's health and economic benefits. Find out why coming up on Farm Week.
Why farmers markets? Why come here?
Well, there's no doubt it tastes better, and heck, it's better for you too.
Hooray, cantaloupe!
Everywhere you look is great food, healthy food.
It's just a healthier choice, and we like that it supports our community.
The reason I come is because you just can't find this quality anywhere else.
Hooray, farmers market!
Before we get to the market report, let's take a look at the Farm Week calendar. Thursday, June 7th from 8 a.m. to noon, the Beaumont Horticultural Field Day. This event features workshops on specialty crop production, including small fruits, vegetables, high tunnel production, raised beds, and sustainable practices. For more information, call Christine Coker at 228-546-1013. June 11th through 13th at the Mississippi State University campus in Starkville, it's Making Tracks 2018, the annual Junior Beef Leadership Conference. Now in its 22nd year, Making Tracks is a joint effort between the MSU Animal and Dairy Science Department, the Mississippi Cattlemen's Foundation, and the Mississippi Junior Cattlemen's Association. This 3-day event includes workshops on all aspects of the cattle industry. The deadline to register is June 1st. For more information, call the Mississippi Cattlemen's Association at 601-354-8951. Now, check out this week's Farm Week Snapshot. We have a new pond bank report for U.S. catfish. These numbers reflect market activity in the month of April. U.S. producers received a price of $1 a pound for premium-sized live fish. That's down 17 cents a pound from a year ago. Farm sales topped 26 million pounds. That's an increase of 2%. Processors' sales were over 12.5 million pounds. That was an increase of less than 1% from April 2017. Big supplies continue to come down the pipeline in the hog sector here in May. Some traders, like Sean Hackett, think there's higher demand coming in the next quarter of the year to even things out.
We think we're going to get a rally. Once again, not looking for anything spectacular, but we think we could see hogs trade up to maybe 80 cents, something of that nature from where we are around 73, 74. We think that that's a realistic outlook. Once again, not great, but an improvement for the farmer.
June hogs were 73 Tuesday evening, while July was 75. Back to trivia now as we wrap things up in the markets. How many Americans grill beef or pork or another meat on Memorial Day coming up on Monday? The correct answer is D. 60% will grill out this holiday. With all of the hubbub over trade wars and NAFTA renegotiation, U.S. row crop farmers are stuck waiting in the wings to see whether their record corn and soybean production will have open roads to foreign ports. But one upper Midwestern crop has long found a path to prosperity in a world awash in grain. Here's Josh Pittner with the story.
Wisconsin might be known as America's dairyland, but another commodity rooted in the Badger State since before the nation's existence holds a long history of lucrative returns from Asian export markets.
Ginseng has traditionally been used in both cooking and as a medicine. A lot of Chinese practice and culture believes that food is a medicine. And so the items you consume impact your bodily health. I think as Westerners, we're just starting to discover that based on our diet.
Will Sue is a second-generation ginseng producer near Wausau. 95% of the plant's domestic cultivated origin is sprinkled across Wisconsin, according to USDA, and Marathon County is the hub.
Very similar to France and Italy, which are known as the old world regions for growing wine. That taste and flavor of Wisconsin ginseng has been ingrained in people for the last 100 years.
State estimates indicate roughly 1 million raw pounds of ginseng are harvested laboriously across Wisconsin every year, representing an over $50 million industry. And some say retail sales can boost profits exponentially.
Well, I'm the farmer, he's the brain, so work out as a team is very good. Each nut is 1 year old.
Originally from Taiwan, Will's father, Paul Su, founded the core of the family business over 40 years ago when he and his wife discovered unmet demand for the niche product in Asian American communities across the U.S. The Su's enterprise now includes several hundred acres under production, with nearly 1,000 employees across the globe.
Chinese real warm, it's hot, yang, and American ginseng in. So there's the two different functions, two species.
Panax ginseng was discovered in China's Manchuria region thousands of years ago, but the popular panacea eventually fell victim to overharvest. However, in the 1700s, Jesuit missionaries followed the thread from Asia to North America along the 45th parallel to Panax quinquefolius, a cousin plant with similar cure-all claims among some Native American tribes.
You don't always find four prongs.
Then around the dawn of the 20th century, the wild root moved from forest to farm in Wisconsin, cemented trade partnerships, and earned a gold standard reputation.
85% of our market is China. So yeah, it's tied in, it's hardwired.
Bob Kaldunsky heads up the state's Ginseng Board, a quasi-governmental promotion group of active producers funded through shade assessment, a tax on the farm structures that help mimic woods-like conditions for the fickle herb. Despite strong demand, Kaldunsky says the number of ginseng growers in Wisconsin has declined from over 1,000 20 years ago to about 180 today.
There's 5 producers that produce about 75% of the crop. And the balance then, that's about 175, produce the other 25%.
This consolidation could be attributed to discouraging infrastructure expenses, time, and land challenges.
3 to 5 years normally before we harvest, and we don't plant on the same land twice.
Ever.
Because cultivated ginseng only grows in a particular location once, large producers must constantly secure new cropland. But the Sioux say successive owners can reap the benefits of ginseng's one-shot deal.
What most farmers typically find is after we're on the land, it's in a better state than it was before, especially to grow, some of the cash crops that are more typical here in central Wisconsin.
Growers don't expect the reality of finite land to brew into a crisis anytime soon, but sustainability could be as close as the edge of the field.
I've been training the digger for 30 years, at least maybe 35 years. We give them top price, so they only pick mature plant and also dig in certain time and certain size.
By state law, the original wild woods-grown ginseng must be at least 10 years old before being extracted for sale. Properly licensed by the state, anyone can dig into Wisconsin's private lands with permission during the months of September and October. And dealers say wild root commands much more than the average $30 to $55 per pound off the farm.
Depending on what location, how good they are, $500, $600, $700 a pound.
That's because the older the root, the higher the number of ginsenosides, active compounds within the plant that impart its elixir-like prestige. Private landowners like the Sioux recognize the importance of conservation, developing their own method, Wild Simulated, as part of the state's multi-pronged approach to viability.
So this is kind of that in-between space, not quite wild, not quite farm-raised, that you see a lot of agriculture moving into. You can take any patch of woods if you take care of it and do a good job of it and turn it into this. And in the wild, some of the best roots are, 15 to 30 years old.
So this is at least 40 years, maybe more than 40. Very, very seldom you have 60-year-old reds, maybe 1 in 100 to 1,000. But 100 years or older, I only found 2 in 43 years. I have 1, and Jack Ma from Alibaba, I gave him 1.
Over the years, Paul Su has forged connections with politicians and high-profile business people who swear by the economic and health benefits of ginseng.
It's going to dry down to and how much of it's going to be usable.
And while producers brush off concerns over trade bluster out of Washington, some do offer a word of caution.
History has shown times where trade to China has been shut down. This industry is dead. The demand as income levels rise in Asia is really coming from there. So to help farmers in central Wisconsin, the best thing we can have is access to those export markets.
For Market to Market, I'm Josh Bittner.
The vast majority of ginseng in the U.S. is grown in the eastern half of the nation. It is a popular crop. The root sells for up to $600 a pound. Coming up next time on Farm Week, for all the food that's grown by farmers and sold in grocery stores, a lot of it goes to waste. Some of that, still edible, goes to those who can't afford it. But one grocery chain is turning garbage into gold, turning 250,000 pounds of waste into compost good for the environment. Zero waste. It is a growing trend and a new market. That's next time on Farm Week. Remember, if you missed a story, you can find past episodes of Farm Week on our website at msuext.ms/farmweek. And as always, don't forget to follow us and our video posts on Facebook and Twitter as well. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Have a great holiday.